Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie, and I gotta tell you that it is getting really hot where I live. And you can definitely feel it when you're driving the Golf R. So with that said, we're gonna try to help out the car by bringing down those intake air temperatures. So I'm gonna install a front mount intercooler. All right, here we go. So I decided to go with a G Plus intercooler. I've used this brand. I used it on my BMW 535 for 5 years and never gave me a problem on the BMW. So when I saw that they made one for the Golf R, it was a no-brainer. I decided to go with them. I'm not a fan of the color of those couplers, however, but this is what they had available, and well, it's getting hot. I need this now. So with that said, as if you can tell, I am running a Twincooler setup, so I will be running this as a front mount intercooler, but the couplers are going to allow me to use this one in conjunction with the factory one in the stock location. So I will have two intercoolers running simultaneously. I feel this is going to yield the best result for me. And later down the road, I will upgrade the factory location intercooler. But for now, at this power level, this makes the most financial sense. All right, so here's a new intercooler. Let's take a look at the sides here. You see it's pretty thick, which is good. It does come with the mounting brackets. Now keep in mind, at the end of the day, this is a custom install. So don't be surprised if you have to do some bending and whatnot in order to make it work. Perhaps some cutting. That is just what comes naturally when you're doing custom work. So just make sure you have the tools ready to do that in case you have to, okay? All right, but you guys know that I've done a bunch of stuff that's all like Decepticon themed about the car. So obviously I can't just let this be alone. So what I did during lunch one time at work is I actually made myself a stencil so I can paint the Decepticon logo on the intercooler. I'm actually not installing this intercooler today. I got some other stuff to do around the house, but at least wanted to get that paint on and let it dry, and then tomorrow I'll go ahead and install it. Well, that sucks. I figured that would happen. Yeah, so because the stencil didn't really sit all the way down on it, especially around here, all the stuff just went up there. Well, I guess let's go ahead and take this off and see how bad it is. And if it is that bad, then I'll just paint the entire intercooler in this same silver, so at least it all kind of matches. Yeah, that's not gonna work. I'm painting this silver now. All right, well, unfortunately, that did not work out as I wanted to, but you know, it is what it is. You got to try sometimes and see what happens. So at least now we have this thing ready to go. So we're just gonna let that dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll install it. All right, guys, let's get this thing on. All right, well, the first thing we're gonna do now is remove the bumper. All right, so there's a bunch of videos online on how to remove the bumper on a Golf R, but just know that there is a bunch of T25 bolts in the fender liners. There's 2 at the top at the grill, and there's 3 at the bottom, and there you also have to take the fender liner at the very front of it. There's 2 on each side. All the mounting screws are off. Now we're gonna go ahead and pull back on the grill. I learned that once you pull the top off, you can actually look straight down and you can see the securing tabs. 1, 2, 3, right down there, and there's a 4th one up here to the side. If you push them down with a long screwdriver, you'll be able to loosen them and hopefully make it easier to pull this back. Okay, so that trick definitely worked because I was able to tug on one side, and now look, the whole thing is loose. Now just remember when you pull this back slowly, because it is connected, the radar here, if you have one, is connected, so you have to unplug that. I almost forgot. The bumper is also secured with these screws here. I think they're T30s. Hey guys, I'm sorry. I did not look up the instructions on this before doing it, so I am learning as I go. There's also this bolt right in the center. So that's also a T30. Got to remove that. What else is holding you? Okay, there's definitely something else still holding this bumper in place. All right, take a look at this right here. Watch as I pull it back. Either it looks like it's being held right there. So I'm gonna try to release that tab, and then that whole side should pop off. Woo! Okay, breaking it is another option, I guess. But it's free now. I'm gonna try to not break that side, but if it breaks, it breaks. Oh well. Broke again. All right, this side broke as well. Oh well. Okay, now I'm gonna pull this back and look for that connector for the parking sensors. Okay, not on this side. These tabs are pretty cool because look, I can actually rest the weight of the bumper on top of the metal bumper while I'm doing this. But that is our connection point right there. We just have to unplug that harness and then this bumper is free. And I'm using a 90-degree pick to loosen it. Woohoo! Something good that you guys can do while the bumper is off is actually come in here and clean out these auxiliary radiators. I already used my leaf blower and blew out a bunch of crap from the backside, but that stuff is still stuck in there. But you can just get to that with like a 90-degree pick and just yank it out. But yeah, you're not gonna get it perfect, but it's a lot better than otherwise. I still gotta go in there and use the pick, but you know, you get the idea. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove these guides because they are going to get in the way of our couplers there. So let's get those off. They are just held on with little clips that go into the radiator support. Just use a flat head and pop them off. I think that there's 3. We've already loosened the top 2, so we just got to get the remaining 4, 2 on each side. Just so you see what I was doing. You see this coming through the radiator support? All you have to do is grab the flathead and push down on it and it will release here. The next step is to remove the ambient air temperature sensor, which is this bad boy here. You see it's just held on by these spring clips. Very easy to remove. We'll leave it off to the side and we'll deal with it later. The other thing we got to remove is both horns. I'm just going to get them both out of the way now because they will be in our way later when we go and install our couplers. Once the couplers are in place later, I'll figure out how to properly secure these horns in place. Oh, almost forgot. When we take off the ambient air temperature sensor, this bracket needs to be bent up because the new intercooler is going to sit up against here and you can't have this bracket sticking out like that. Next step is to go ahead and remove the factory couplers. So you got 2 clamps on each side. I do recommend that you spray them with WD-40 before you start turning them loose in case they've never been removed before. They can absolutely break on you, especially if you live up north with rust. All right, guys, we're done with removals and cleaning up. Now we're finally ready to go ahead and start installing stuff. So let me show you what I have here. All right, I just wanted to do a quick comparison of the factory couplers, which are those there. That's on the passenger side, that's on the driver's side. And you see here, for example, this sits like this up against the factory intercooler. And this is how you make the dual intercoolers run. So that goes in here, pokes in there, and this side here, there you go. All right, so this is kind of difficult to show with just one camera, but basically this here is going to sit up right here on this side. And you see that this is the only side that has an additional flap going towards the back, whereas this one is just back and over. That one is back, over, and back again. So you're gonna start with this side, lining it up here, and then the fun part is that once you have the intercooler up in place, you're gonna have to push it slightly up this way because this corner, this almost 90 degree here, needs to sit right in this 90 degree on this side because you're going to be drilling the holes right here. When you line up that side, this kind of this 90-degree corner kind of sits on this flat piece, so you do have to push the intercooler over slightly for it to pop in when it does. And obviously make sure you have it up against the bottom of the metal bumper, and it'll line up perfectly. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to put it up to place, and all I'm doing is marking my holes, and I'm using a spring-loaded, I forgot what you call these things now. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart, but essentially this will mark the spot in which I need to drill my holes for it. This does come with hardware. I'll put an image of the hardware that it includes, but essentially I am using a 9/64 drill bit to get these things in there. So make sure you get it on the side here, and then up, and make sure that 90-degree goes into the groove here. There you go. Now just hold it in place while you mark your holes. Be very careful when you do this to not poke all the way through, because you do have a AC condenser and a radiator directly behind this. So you want to make sure you go extra slow with it. This side here is definitely closer to the radiator. I think you're okay with it, but just be careful. This side here, at least again, on my car, I have a clear shot to go straight and there's nothing behind it. But again, be very careful in your car. I am not responsible for you drilling a hole into your radiator. That is all on you. Because of the placement on this one, it's very hard for me to get to it. So I don't know if I'll use it or not. We'll see. I might be able to do something else with it. All right, I could have done a better job marking the holes and whatnot, but you know what? It is secure. Look at that. It's not going anywhere. It is solid, but it's a little sketchy as to how I mounted it. Take a look. So on this side here, I only have one screw in. The other one, unfortunately, I did a bad job at marking it and it doesn't line up. I thought about taking it off and redoing it, but honestly, like, that's not going anywhere. I'm okay with that. And then the next side here, this is the real sketchy one. For some reason, this screw would not go any further, so I might be up against the radiator. So what I did is I basically put a big nut that I have from my hardware stuff over there, and I used that to bring out the bolt a little bit, and I was able then to go ahead and tighten that down. This side here, forget it. Like I can't even get something in there. I wish that this tab actually came down lower so you can actually mount it up against this side here, because that's impossible to get to with a drill to do it, unless you use some self-tappers, which honestly, again, with this fix here, that's not going anywhere. So I'm okay with it. Now, do I recommend this to other people? No, but just be aware you're gonna have to take your time. The other option would have been for me to bend that bracket, but at that point I'm taking this back off to bend it and whatnot. And again, this is solid. I don't care. It is solid in there, so I'm good to go. Now it's time to put on the couplers. Here's another tip for you. When you're putting on couplers and you're putting on T-bolt clamps, well, really any kind of clamp, but especially T-bolt clamps like these here, make sure you put them on in a way that in the future, if you need to take this off, you can easily get to them. Don't do like Volkswagen that just puts them in the exact opposite side of where you need them sometimes, right? Make sure that, like for example, this one here is gonna be like this. I am choosing to do it this way here. Boom. And then this one here, this is the one that's gonna be up here. I don't want the bolt, you always want the bolt to the bottom because that's the way that you're gonna be accessing them. But I'm gonna have this one in the back. So all you see is this here, and I'll be able to access it this way. So like that. Just so you guys know, these clamps are 12mm heads, 12mm. So for these here, I started from the back, and I started with the ones from on the pipe. Then I moved on to the factory intercooler, and I made sure that all the couplers were in all the way to the bottom. All this before I dealt with the front mount intercooler. Once everything was more or less in place, I went ahead and started tightening all the clamps down. I did use the electric ratchet just to bring down the bolts, but for final tightening, I did go by hand. Needless to say, I am very happy with how this is turning out. Look at all that there. Oh man, this looks good. And I like the fact that when it's mounted, it's not level. You see how it's kind of at an angle? And that's actually going to work to our advantage when we go put the bumper back on. I know that on the GTIs, it does kind of slant back a little bit, so this will definitely give them space, whereas the R is more almost vertical at the front, so we might not need to cut anything in the back of the bumper, but we'll see. All right, guys, so here I'm going to cover what I ended up doing to work around anything that was touching the couplers, number one, and number two, how I dealt with the horns. All right, so on the driver's side, let me turn on the light, hold on. There we go. On the driver's side, I had 2 points of contact. Number one, my auxiliary radiator here. So there's that 1 point of contact. And then also, if you can see right there, where those hoses go. So what I did is I actually cut off some chunks of an old heater hose that I had laying around. And I basically made myself patches that I can put on the coupler. So that way this stuff, which does get hot, doesn't constantly rub on it. Now keep in mind that silicone, especially 3-ply silicone like this one, is very tough. Like on my BMW, I actually had it sitting up against the engine block for what, 2.5 years, and it never ever actually poked a hole through it. But this is just my OCD. I don't like to have this sitting up against anything, especially something that gets hot, even though I had to in the BMW because I had zero space to do what I just did here. But this is more of my personal peace of mind. It's up to you if you want to do it or not. But basically what I did is I cut off some of the radiator hose and I secured it with zip ties. And I'm sandwiching it between the auxiliary radiator here and up there, those fittings here. So there are 2 separate chunks of hose that I just split open. And there you go. So that's this side here. And then on the driver's side, on the passenger side, I only had 1 point of contact, and it was with the high pressure AC pipe. So if you're ever looking at AC lines and you have a skinny one and a thick one, the skinny one is the high pressure side. The low side is this one. This is the one that gets cold and gets dewy and sweaty. This one here runs hot because it needs to go through the compressor. So because this one's making contact, I definitely wanted to put something there. So you see there, I slid open the hose and I forced it down to cover the point of contact with the coupler. And then I just secured it with a zip tie here. All right, now for the horns. This is fun because everyone does it differently. So on this side, I did have to use a bracket supplied for it to bring it upward here. Keep in mind also that both of the horns, you can clock them however you want. It's just a 10mm nut right here, and then you can just turn them however you wish. And this was just the best way that I was able to do to get it out of the way that could fit. Notice also that this bracket that's applied is slightly bent. I pulled it forward a little bit so I can give you more clearance so that this part back here wasn't touching the air duct here. But that's how this side looks. Let me show you the other side. On this side, I actually did not have to use a bracket. All I had to do was flip the factory one, as you can see here. But notice also that I had to bend this tab of the factory bracket. So typically this is just a normal 90°, but I needed to bend this down a little bit so that the back side here would clear. And I know it's kind of hard to tell with the lighting, but that's where the connector is, and I didn't want it to be rubbing up against the frame rail. So once it was in place, I just grabbed it and I bent it down, and I was able to get that angle there. Now it's perfect and it's nice and out of the way, nothing touching it. I almost forgot to show, but that is where, there's an actual hole there from the bracket. There you go, you can see it back there. That's where the sensor is supposed to be poking from G+. However, I could not get the sensor to go in there and I didn't want to force it. So I just secured it with a zip tie, called it a day. I almost forgot about the air guides too. So I was able to chop them at the bottom, and I could have gone a little further down, but honestly, that's just the easier spot to cut. But yeah, I was able to secure it. You see it there. At least I'm getting the proper guiding function at the top of the radiator here, right? And then the same thing here. Was able to go at least at an angle to cover a little more. But, at least it's there somewhat. All right, I am really tired, but we are almost done here. All I have to do now is put the bumper back on, get it on the ground, and go for a test ride. All right, Houston, we got a problem. This thing is making contact right here. And all along the top, here's making contact. And also this black bar is also making contact. The top as well in here. It's all touching. And the sides of the bumper are perfectly fine on the fender. The top is fine, but the bottom here, let me see if I can show you guys. These mounting holes are not lining up. They're off by about 1/4 inch. So that is going to be an issue because obviously then I can't secure the bottom of the bumper. And once the other piece comes in here, I mean, it snaps onto this side. So this will just be free flopping here, which is not cool. So I'm going to take the bumper back off and use my oscillating tool and chop off about a 1/2 inch up here. And hopefully that'll be enough for the bottom to come down and in to meet that. All right, guys, kind of hard to see, but the bumper is sitting perfect now. It's still a little tight, so I could have trimmed a little bit more, but I did cut like 1/2 inch on the top part here and maybe about a 1/4 inch on this point here. This part here doesn't touch the intercooler at all, but right here it does make contact. The same on the other side. But up here I have plenty clearance, so really, I should have just cut 1/2 inch from the top all the way across and 1/2 inch from at least from here to the first vertical support here on this first bar. Same on the other side. But at least at this point, I am able to put everything together. And yeah, it's kind of hard to see it. I'm going to try to get better pictures once we get some sunlight. We have storms the next couple days. So once I can get some good pictures, I'll go ahead and finish up this video. But I'm going to go test drive this right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, hey guys. Hey, I'm sorry. Did I just show you guys a teaser of what's coming here? Yeah, hopefully that'll be on the next video. But back to the subject, the intercooler. Wow, it has been great. It's been a week now since I installed it, and I just went on a road trip, as a matter of fact, today, and I put 220 miles on it. And that included several wide open throttle pulls back to back because I intentionally wanted to test for any signs of heat soak. Nothing. It just went and went and went, and it felt very consistent, not like before where I was feeling that after like the third or like the end of the second pull you could already feel a difference. Now it is actually pretty stable and very predictable, so that's a sign that the intercooler is actually working efficiently. It's not getting heat soaked like the factory one does. Now, keep in mind, like I said earlier in the video, that I am going to be replacing the factory intercooler, but my plan is to ultimately run both intercoolers, both the G Plus and whatever intercooler I choose to upgrade to for the factory position one. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. If you're still watching, I would absolutely appreciate a like, and I definitely appreciate even more your subscription. Thank you so much as always, and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon when I install these new seats. See you next time.